Hello, I'm BrigantiaBlackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Tuesday and welcome to Pagan Problems. Let's talk about claiming our space. One of the saddest things I've observed within the pagan community is that when pagans indicate that there's no room in their lives for their faith. In this case, I'm not speaking of individuals who have made no effort to practice their beliefs. This is specifically about those who have given up any expectation that they have the right to do so. This is the person who hides away in the broom closet because they fear the rejection of friends and family, or who feels like they don't have the guts to not go along with the crowd and seek spiritual solace only online. This is the person who wishes to participate in rituals and pagan celebrations and festivals, but never allows themselves to do so because deep down they don't think that they're worth it, and the potential hassle of living their beliefs just creates too many waves and they don't want to deal with it. It's tragic and it's depressing because more often than not, those who fall into this trap on the spiritual level are also not asserting themselves in other areas of life. They decide to just keep quiet because it's not worth the fuss over even relatively small matters that could be very easily and very politely addressed and solved if only they brought the matter up. This behavior over a period of time results in a person editing themselves out of their own lives until the only thing that remains is a persona that other people see and mistake for the real person. Worst of all, the person can bring themselves so low that they begin to believe that the mask is the only real part of themselves, when in reality it is their least authentic aspect. And without getting too lost in the weeds, I want to briefly make the case and provide a reasonable justification for why people can and should break out of their pattern if this is what they are doing. To begin with, editing ourselves out of our own lives is an act of self-destruction. It demoralizes us by definition and renders us irrelevant, and it makes it far more difficult to make any decision, large or small, that improves our lives in any way, because after all, we've already decided that we don't matter. Secondly, hiding behind the mask is dishonest. It exaggerates in your mind the risks of standing by your convictions. It prevents people from being on an equal footing with us because how can they possibly know where they stand with us when we are not being honest about our own position? And this also signals to the gods that we can't muster up the gumption to even be a fair weather friend, let alone the sort of person who would be steadfast under pressure. And it makes us more likely to fool ourselves into thinking that others can't see that the image we are projecting is actually false. And sustaining that illusion is an impossibility. It requires far more effort and resolve to keep up a false appearance than it does to simply be upfront about what you think and to practice what you actually believe. It has been said that paganism is a way of life, and so it is. The spiritual worldview of a pagan impacts their daily life, major decisions, everything. And of course, that doesn't happen overnight, and it requires having a faith of true substance. That has to be built, and it has to be more than the mere memorization of facts, stories, and ritual. Integrating pagan philosophy into our lives is a process in which we're able to glean principles from our lore and see how they relate to real life in the here and now. Without making that connection, spiritual progress will be limited. And this is why you will sometimes encounter people who are virtual pagan encyclopedias, all very impressive, but they can't sustain a conversation about how to apply the information. And it is also why you'll encounter people who say they believe in paganism, but they can't bring themselves to practice because they can't or they won't connect point A to point B. A good place to start is to contemplate how the lore and the principles applies to ourselves. Never mind the world to begin with, just how does this apply to us? Where do we fit in with the greater pattern of things at this very moment? One way to address this question is to contemplate how the gods, animals, plants, rocks, all these things have a spiritual nature, and that comes with other associations. So what is your nature? What things in the natural world correspond to you? And by this I mean, just make a list of your favorites. Choose a color, an animal, a plant, a stone, an element that all represent who you are. Then do a little bit of research. What does the lore say about your favorite things, and what does this in turn reveal about you? Another way to figure out how we fit into the grand scheme of things is by making a serious study of our astrological birth chart. The placement of signs in various planets, houses, and various aspects provides a wealth of information, and learning how these components fit together to make a whole can yield considerable insight about our factory settings, as well as some ideas about how to evolve, and that results in integrating our spiritual beliefs into our lives. We can read mythology, and not in a way to just cross a chore off the list or say that we read it so we could say that we read it, but really dig into it. If you like a particular story, why? If you don't, why? If you can't connect, why? And don't shrug this off. It's an important aspect of the process to understand our own personal whys and to be able to articulate them, if to no one else other than ourselves. And meditate, and then set goals, and push yourself to fulfill those goals. We have to take on the responsibility of holding ourselves accountable. Let's not relapse into the psychological weakness that gets glamorized in the mainstream. We should not be absent from our own lives. We shouldn't be faking our own lives, and we shouldn't fool ourselves into thinking that we don't matter. So claim your space. Now it's time for you to let me know what you think about all this. You can tell me all about it in the comment section below, or you can come see us on Discord at Blackbird's Brew. Link to join in the description box below, and you will be very welcome there. But that'll do it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!